In part 1 of my birding adventure in Ecuador, I stayed at Cabañas Tamiyahu and saw many birds in the eastern Andean region full of montane cloud forests. For part 2, I traveled to the western side to spend my remaining days in Ecuador at a well-known birding location, Refugio Paz De Las Aves. I departed Cabañas Tamiyahu with 4 days and 3 nights left in Ecuador. I decided to take the bus into Quito. It was rather inexpensive and took me through endless, beautiful tropical landscapes. At various stops, there would be people selling street food on the bus, so I bought empanadas and mango slices. And at a station in Quito, I bought a nice meal for $2. I barely spent any time in Quito since I'm not the most comfortable in unfamiliar cities when traveling solo. But I did take this one picture from a bus stop as it reminded me of San Francisco. From Quito, I bussed all the way to the small town of Nanagalito in the western Andean region, where I got picked up and taken to the refuge. Once I finally made it to Paz de las Aves, I quickly learned that the birding is always good, no matter what, even in the pouring rain. Paz de las Aves was founded in 2005 by a man named Angel Paz. Him and his 2 brothers inherited the land and were in the process of logging it. But the land was home to an Andean Cock-of-the-Rock lek, and logging the area would have permanently removed the lek, which these birds can use for many generations. So Angel Paz decided to spare that section and built a trail to the lek for birders to view. While logging the remaining parts of the land, Angel grew fond of the birds that were attracted to the invertebrates exposed from the fallen trees and got into the habit of feeding them. These birds were Antpittas. Antpittas are extremely difficult to see as they remain hidden in the understory of dense tropical forest, but at Paz de las Aves, these birds respond to the calls of Angel and his brother Rodrigo, who are known as the Antpitta Whisperers. The entire 50 hectares or so has now been preserved as a refuge, while simultaneously supporting the Paz family in their efforts to restore the land and promote conservation. People come from all over the world to view these hard-to-find birds, and it was an honor to be added to this very long list. I was very happy that the golden tanager was the most abundant species at Paz de las Aves. This bird is a ball of sunshine in the misty cloud forest. Another common species of tanager, the golden-naped tanager, took advantage of the feeder station. Slicing open bananas and sticking them to nails hammered into wood was the main method of bird feeding at the refuge. At one point, I was given a handheld hummingbird feeder, and I was overwhelmed with buff-tailed coronets and velvet purple coronets, constantly sipping the feeder, clearly very comfortable with my presence. At one point, a velvet purple coronet decided to land on my arm. It really was a special moment. These hummingbirds were so close to me, I decided to take this video with my phone. I was very happy to see this masked Trogon right away. Trogons are known for their beauty, and this species is no exception. After settling into my cozy room, which was a log cabin, I had a delicious dinner waiting for me along with a tasty dessert, which was a fruit that I can't remember the name of. After dinner, my guide took me on a night hike to search for owls. During the walk, though, we stumbled upon many frogs. The luck was in my favor as the resident black and white owl made an appearance just right outside my cabin. The black and white owl is a large owl that can be found in tropical America from Mexico all the way south to Ecuador and east to Venezuela in a variety of moist woodlands and forests. Some black and white owls apparently become accustomed to hunting near streetlights, which was the case for this individual, which allowed for some amazing looks. On day 2, we got up bright and early to see the resident Andean Cock-of-the-Rock lek. A lek is a gathering of males implementing courtship behavior to attract a female. The lighting was dim and my camera doesn't shoot well in these conditions, so my guide took me the following day to see the Cock-of-the-Rocks in broad daylight. I'll talk more about these birds later. After viewing the lek, my guide pointed out a couple of roosting short-tailed nighthawks. They were very similar to the common nighthawks that I'm used to seeing in the United States, as are many members of the Nightjar family. As we kept checking out different spots, it was lifer after lifer. I got some footage of an Andean solitaire, uniform tree hunter, golden-bellied flycatcher, and a Chaco brushfinch, a species only found in both Ecuador and Colombia. Then I got taken to a location where I got to experience a species with the most oversized tail I've ever seen. The Lyre-tailed Nightjar. Apparently, one species of nightjar with the short-tailed nighthawks was not enough at Paz De Las Aves for only one day. The male lyre-tailed nightjar is unmistakable, with its insanely long tail, maybe 3/4 the length of its body. Females lack the long tail and are apt to roosting on the ground. After an eventful early morning of birding, we went to breakfast around 9 a.m., which was some much-needed fruit and breakfast sandwiches. I also went to the hummingbird feeders next to the cafeteria to film some hummers. I could have stood here forever looking at this incredible variety of hummingbirds, but my guide said we needed to leave, and for good reason. A giant reason. This is Maria, the giant Antpitta. The giant Antpitta is the largest species of Antpitta in the entire world, standing almost a foot tall. This species occupies a small range on both slopes of the Andes mountain range, but mostly confined to Ecuador. Its range also extends into a small part of southern Colombia. Even though Maria is the name given to this bird back in 2005 by Angel Paz himself, there have actually been about 6 generations of Maria. This species, along with 4 other Antpitta species, nest at the refuge. After an amazing encounter with the giant Antpitta, my guide took me on a hunt for another hard-to-see bird. This bird was much harder to find as it was calling from very high in a tree. But our persistence paid off, and we located the cloud forest Pygmy-Owl. The cloud forest Pygmy-Owl is overall a very rare species. Like the giant Antpitta, it occupies a very small range in the Andes Mountains, from Ecuador to Colombia, but only on the western slope. It is currently classified as vulnerable on the IUCN Red List due to its small range, low population density, and declines due to deforestation. Like with many of the birds seen here at Paz De Las Aves, I savored the moment, because who knows when the next time I'll see a cloud forest Pygmy-Owl will be. We spent a long time observing the owl, and I would have stayed longer, but my guide Andy received a phone call. After getting off the phone, he said we needed to leave. My only guess was that maybe another Antpitta had been tracked down. Boy, was I right. I was able to get some short but amazing looks at this yellow-breasted Antpitta. I didn't realize it at the time, but the yellow-breasted Antpitta is another range-restricted species to the western slope of the Andes in Ecuador and Colombia. With 2 of the 5 Antpitta species seen at Paz de las Aves, I was feeling on top of the world. After seeing the Antpitta, we went to an area with both fruit feeders and hummingbird feeders while we waited for word of another Antpitta to show itself. And I finally got some extended quality time at the feeders that I'd been dying to get. And I went crazy with my camera. After an insane birding sesh, we finally got the word to come hike down the trail, but it wasn't for an Antpitta, but another cryptic species. This is the Olivaceous Piha. Although not endangered, the Olivaceous Piha can be an extremely tough bird to locate, and it's not hard to see why. This bird blends in with its surroundings better than any bird I've ever seen. Although it reminded me of the Townsend solitaire of the US, only it was green. It is actually in the same family as the Cock-of-the-Rock. The Olivaceous Piha is a poorly understood species, because not only is it hard to see, it is also very quiet. It is seldom heard vocalizing, so seldom that there are only 5 sound recordings submitted to the eBird database. We were soon on the move again, as we were called over to the location of another mysterious bird. We lucked out again with another species of Antpitta. The Chestnut-crowned Antpitta is a widespread species ranging from Venezuela all the way to Peru. Compared to other Antpitta species, it is slightly more likely to be found out in the open, which was apparent as this bird stuck around for a long time, taking advantage of the juicy night crawlers being left out for it. After a delicious lunch, we went to search for a nocturnal species called a Potoo, but on the way we found one of my favorite sightings from the entire trip. 2 Crested Guans roosting in the rain. Felt unreal how close we were able to get to these birds. Then again, we were viewing them from a vehicle. The Crested Guan has been declining throughout its range from Mexico to Venezuela, Colombia, and Ecuador due to overhunting and habitat loss, and is classified as near threatened on the IUCN Red List. However, it seems to do well in protected areas and is unafraid of humans where hunting is prohibited.
Beautiful bird.
The search went on for the Potoo. We spent a good 20 minutes of extensive searching for a motionless bird. And with my luck, I ended up being the one who spotted it in a faraway clearing in the forest. The common Potoo is an odd nocturnal bird. It roosts during the day at the end of a snag and can be very difficult to see. At night, it hunts for flying insects from an open perch. After my sighting of the Potoo, my guide took me to another part of the refuge that had an abundance of feeders. My guide tossed some bananas to the mountain tanagers while we waited for a highly sought-after species to make an appearance. We also enjoyed some other birds that were showing up to the feeders, such as this glossy black thrush, a white-tipped dove, a masked flower piercer, an orange-bellied Euphonia, we also had my first ever Agouti show up. The Agouti is a widespread rodent of the American tropics. It is one of the only animals in the world that has the capability to crack open the Brazil nut, which is an important export product for the tropics. The Agouti often stores these nuts for later consumption by burying them in the ground. Any nuts forgotten end up growing in the trees, making the Agouti a keystone species for the survival of the Brazil nut. Eventually, our target species showed up. This is the plate-billed Mountain-Toucan. The plate-billed Mountain-Toucan occupies a very small range in the western slope of the Andes and is nearly endemic to Ecuador, with its range barely making it into Colombia. It is classified as near threatened on the IUCN Red List due to deforestation, habitat loss, and illegal capture for the pet trade. Fortunately, the pair of toucans that showed up to the feeders feel right at home at Paz De Las Aves. Add a little bit of time and daylight left before our delicious dinner. So I spent some time at the feeders seeing if I could film any birds I hadn't already yet. The red-headed barbet is always an eye-catcher. An ornate flycatcher way below. A very cooperative tropical kingbird. But I really enjoyed watching this Montane Woodcreeper gobble up this large, unlucky flying insect. The Montane Woodcreeper belongs to a large family of birds ranging throughout Central and South America. They all look very similar, and I was fortunate to see several different species during my trip. The next day, I watched the early morning birds take advantage of the insects attracted to the light post near my cabin, such as this slate-throated redstart. When Andy picked me up, we did a lot of birding from the vehicle. He spotted this hook-billed kite. I saw this species several times at the refuge. We stopped at a particular tree that I can't remember the name of, but was loved by birds called Fruiteaters. And to our delight, there was a pair of orange-breasted Fruiteaters. We spent some time at the creek searching for a bird called the white-capped dipper. The bird never made an appearance, but I was stoked about this footage I got of a southern rough-winged swallow. As well as this yellow-bellied seed-eater. Finally got some breakfast in around 9 a.m. Don't know what was in this ball of dough, but it was so good. We went to an area of feeders because it was a reliable spot for a toucan species called the collared aracari. It never turned up, but I enjoyed watching so many other birds, including a close relative of the aracari, the Crimson-rumped Toucanet. The Crimson-rumped Toucanet is a widespread toucan species that can be found in the mountains throughout Ecuador, Colombia, and into extreme western Venezuela, and definitely feels like an epitome bird of the tropical forest. We eventually hit the road again and stopped for some tough looks at this bicolored hawk, before heading back to the fruit-eater tree to check for another fruit-eater species. And this one hit. And it hit hard. This is the scaled fruit-eater. Like other fruit-eaters, the scaled fruit-eater is a chunky bird, but can be easily distinguished from all other fruit-eaters by its distinctive scaly plumage. We were lucky enough to have a pair of scaled fruit-eaters in this tree. This individual is a male. There is a female that was heavily obscured by foliage, so I wasn't able to get any camera footage of her. The female lacks the black crown that this male has, but was equally scaly. There are other birds in the fruit tree as well, like this capped conebill.
I got the capped conebill.
And a smoke-colored peewee. Lunch was usually served around 1 o'clock, and it always smacked. After breakfast, the rain was so intense that we hunkered down. The initial plan was to wait an hour, but we ended up waiting 2 hours. It was definitely nice to decompress, but it didn't keep me from enjoying the rain from the incredible balcony. I even got to observe some of the bird behavior in the rain. Probably my favorite part about the rain is that when it stops, the bird activity skyrockets. Wow. When my guide came back to get me, we stuck around the cabin feeders since the activity was so high. Got some really nice looks at the barbets. The Toucan Barbet has at least 8 different colors alone. I was really hoping to see this bird since it is an extremely range-restricted species that can only be found on the western slope of the Andes, in northwest Ecuador to southwest Colombia. I also thought I saw a new species of Trogon, but as it turned out, this brown Trogon was actually the female masked Trogon. So every Trogon I had seen up until this point was a male. We then tried again at the feeder area where you can see the Aracari. Once again, it never showed up, but I got quite a few more birds on footage, including a blue-necked tanager. Don't know if you remember the blue-necked tanager from part 1, but the bird I saw in the eastern Andes was actually a different subspecies with a slightly different color pattern. So I got to see the western kind and the eastern kind in one trip. I saw the flame-rumped tanager so many times that I could have sworn I had video footage of a male, but I didn't. The Ecuadorian thrush is nearly endemic to Ecuador, barely making it into Peru. Despite its small range, it was very common at Paz De Las Aves and can be found in just about any forested habitat in western Ecuador. We soon hit the road again to search for more birds and made a stop when my guide spotted a golden-headed Quetzal. There ended up being a pair of Quetzals, which was even better. Quetzals are large Trogons that inhabit tropical America. The golden-headed Quetzal gets its name from the tint of bronzy coloring on the greenish head of the male, which you can barely see in this male because of the terrible angle. But hey, sometimes birding is like that. As promised, we went back to go see the Andean Cock-of-the-Rock leg for some better looks at the birds that got Paz De Las Aves started. The Andean Cock-of-the-Rock is an iconic bird of the Andean cloud forest and is also the national bird of Peru. It is in the Caatinga family, a large family of tropical American species that also includes the fruit eaters and the Pihas. There are at least 7 males in this lek making lots of noise, attempting to draw a female in. I didn't see any females, which have a much smaller crest than the males, but that doesn't mean they weren't around. This species is rather skittish and can be tough to see away from the leks. Fortunately, we were able to view them from this awesome viewing blind. I also got to view a few other species on the lek. served around 6 p.m., and as always, the food was delicious, and a great way to gear up for my final day at Paz De Las Aves. Started early the next morning and got my Lyre-tailed foliage gleaner. Andy, my guide, made it his mission to show me as many new birds as possible, so we were hitting a lot of different spots. I got my best looks ever at a hook-billed K. A roadside hawk that had just caught something yummy. Saw the short-tailed Nighthawk pair in the exact same branch. Can't remember why we stopped at this bush, but I got my lifer Sharpe's wren. There were several individuals in this big bush. We tried again for the white-capped dipper, this time ascending and descending this massive mound of mudslide in an attempt to cover more riverway. No luck with the dipper, but lots of luck with a different bird. My lifer Chestnut-bellied Chat-Tyrant. Formerly known as the Slate-backed Chat-Tyrant, the Chestnut-bellied Chat-Tyrant inhabits rushing streams within Andean cloud forests from Colombia to northern Peru. After breakfast, which I forgot to take a picture of, we hung out by some of the feeders, while we waited for a potential call of another hard-to-see bird. And I never get tired of watching the feeders. I had another aha moment when this bird I thought was a new species was actually a female red-headed barbet. Turned out to be new for me was this blue-capped tanager. Blue-capped tanager can be found throughout the Andes Mountains and even in a few other mountains from Venezuela all the way down to Bolivia. It can also be found on the island of Trinidad. Eventually, we got summoned over to a new bird. This species was indeed a tricky one, but well worth the wait for the Rufous-breasted Antthrush. The Rufous-breasted Antthrush is a secretive bird of the understory. Fortunately, at Paz De Las Aves, this bird is trained to respond to the calls of the refuge's Antpitta whisperers and is rewarded with a natural snack of night crawlers. It was soon time to move again, as there was another bird to see. And voila! My fourth and final Antpitta species of my trip, the Ochre-breasted Antpitta. The Ochre-breasted Antpitta is a tiny species of Antpitta averaging 10 centimeters in length and can be extremely difficult to detect. It ranges from Costa Rica all the way to Bolivia between 500 to 2,500 meters in altitude. We were lucky enough to have this great-looking couple allow us to observe them during their lunchtime. After my lunchtime, it was time to depart, and I knew from the second I left that I already wanted to relive it all over again. Have you ever been to Paz De Las Aves, or at least been birding in Ecuador? Let me know in the comments, and if not, let me know what your favorite bird was from this video. If you made it this far, hit that like button and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. As always, thanks for watching Birdo's Bird Life. I'll see you next time on the next adventure.